الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين ورحمة الله للعالمين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. All the praise and all the glory is due to Allah, and I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is His last prophet and messenger. May the blessings and peace of Allah be upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and those who followed his path up to the day of judgment. My dear respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to explaining the prophetic ahadith, sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned in the very well-known book Umdat al-Ahkam. And this book, Umdat al-Ahkam, or the essence of legal ruling, is a book which is classified according to the chapters of fiqh, and it talks about the main subjects extending from the book of purification all the way back to the whole chapters, including even fasting, pilgrimage, and all rituals and transactions. And the hadith included in Umdat al-Ahkam are all authentic because they are the agreed upon hadith of Al-Bukhari and Muslim. And the hadith of today is on dry ablution or on tayammum. And this is hadith number 37 of the book. And this hadith is well known as the hadith of Ammar ibn Yasir and the hadith of Imran ibn Husayn. We'll start with the hadith of Imran ibn Husayn, which says, عن عمران بن حسين رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم رأى رجلا معتزلا لم يصلي في القوم فقال يا فلان ما منعك أن تصلي في القوم فقال يا رسول الله أصابتني جنابة ولا ماء فقال عليك بالصعيد فإنه يكفيك عليك بالصعيد فإنه يكفيك. On the authority of Imran ibn Husayn, may Allah be pleased with him, that the messenger, blessings and peace of Allah be upon him, entered the masjid, and he found a man being secluded, sitting himself aloof from the people without joining the congregation. So the Prophet asked him, why you are sitting alone? The Prophet asked him, and then the man said, I was in a state of ritual impurity, I was in a state of janaba, and I couldn't find water to make ablution, so I set myself aloof. So the Prophet ﷺ said, why didn't you perform or why you didn't perform a tayammum? And it is sufficient for you. First of all, we have almost 20 legal rulings included in this hadith. It is a very short hadith, but it has merits of benefits, because as we mentioned, the pure breath of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam always gives guidance. First of all, just a word about Imran ibn Husayn. And Imran ibn Husayn is one of what we can call the patient companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is reported that he suffered a lot before his death, and he had a chronic disease, and it is authentically proved that Imran ibn Husayn is one of the people who used to hear the praises and the prayers of the angels. Yes, this happened when he was in his death in his bed, and it is reported that they made a hole in his bed to answer the call of nature. And the people came to him to give him condolence. And thereupon he said, why you are coming and approaching me and saying words of condolence? Wallahi, Wallahi, I hear their words and their prayers around me, the angels of Allah. This is not a weak hadith, this is an authentic hadith. So Imran ibn Husayn is giving us an example of the people who were patient. And also, he reported that later on he was deprived of listening to the prayers of the angels. And there is a question here which is raised. Is it possible for a person to see the angels? Legally speaking, there is no problem. How? What is the proof? Because the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ and Usayd ibn Hudayr, when he was reciting the book of Allah, and the horses made a sound and they were shaking, and when he stopped, they stopped, and when he resumed reciting the Quran, the horses started again trembling. So he informed that to the Prophet ﷺ, and the messenger said, yes, these are the angels which revealed for your recitation. Had you continued reciting the Quran up to the morning, the people would have witnessed them with their own eyes. These are an elite generation of the best people on the face of the earth, that Allah gave them karam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them a way of closeness to Allah and to His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let us go into the legal rulings included in this hadith. Number one, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw Iman being secluded from the others in the prayer. So the scholars concluded from this statement that when a Muslim see a group of people making congregation, especially if it is the main congregation, he must join them. He must participate in the congregation. And a question is raised again. If that person made already his prayer, he must join it again. Because the Prophet ﷺ had 3 or 2 authentic ahadith in this regard. The first hadith, that the messenger saw 2 people and they already performed prayers in their caravan. When they entered the masjid, the Prophet ﷺ said, why you didn't pray with us? They said, we have already prayed in our caravan. And the Messenger ﷺ said, when you pray in your caravan or at your home and you join a masjid where the prayer is performed, you must offer the prayer. You must offer the prayer with the Imam. And there is another authentic hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said, if any one of you performs salah at his home and he enters a masjid where he finds the Imam did not perform the prayer, he must join the congregation. So this is the first legal ruling. Even if I have already made, yes, because the Prophet ﷺ said, this is a nafila for you. It is a supererogatory prayer for you. And also the Prophet ﷺ emphasized the importance of attending congregation. It is very important. So when the Prophet ﷺ was asked about people who will witness some rulers who will come later after the time of the Sahaba, and they would delay the time of prayers, the Prophet ﷺ admonished the Sahaba to perform prayers at their homes on time, and then they joined those rulers even if they were oppressing people to perform prayers not in their appropriate and in their own time. And he said, this one of you is obligatory and the other is recommended. It is supererogatory. And this gives us a hint about the importance of joining together, the importance of attending the jama'ah. For sure, those who do not attend the jama'ah and they are secluded by themselves, the iman in their hearts go lower and lower and lower, and they cannot taste the sweetness of jama'ah, the sweetness of iman. And this is very important. That's why some scholars, the majority of scholars, said that attending jama'ah in masjid is obligatory, because the Prophet ﷺ wanted the people who did not attend jama'ah in the Isha prayer that he would go and burn their homes. But the Prophet ﷺ didn't do that. And according to the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, it's a report, and he said that the sunnah of your beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is to attend prayers in the masajid where the prayers are called upon. And Ibn Mas'ud said, and I witnessed with my own eyes a man dragging his feet on the ground, having 2 Sahaba carrying him in between their shoulders, and he did not leave the first row, and he did not leave the jama'ah in the masjid. I saw on the YouTube one day, Iman Wallahi, he is crawling on his feet and in his hand over 90 years. And he is not satisfied just to perform the prayer in the first row, every single prayer. And it is preferred for them to die in their way for the prayer or to die in the rows of the congregations than to die on their beds. Because the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in the authentic hadith that a person is regarded as praying from the first second that he leaves his home. And there is another authentic hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ that 3 people will have the reward to Allah. Allah is the one who will suffice them. Who are those people? One of them is a man who left his home for making prayers. And then he returned it back. He died before returning back to his home. Or he died immediately upon entering his home. He is promised approval from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a very little thing, worthless in our eyes, but it is very important. This is one of the ways of stabilizing yourself on Iman. And one person came to a sheikh one day and said, Sheikh, I commit adultery and I cannot give up. How should I give up this sin? You know what was the advice of the sheikh? It is amazing to tell you that he told him, keep on the first row. Keep performing prayers in the first row. Keep making jama'ah with the people. And the result was amazing, because the man came after a month and he swore by Allah that he quit. He gave up. He said, my wife became the best woman in my eyes, and I'm satisfied with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the sweetness of Iman, and this is the importance of attending the Jama'ah. This is the reason that the Prophet ﷺ told the man, why you didn't approach the people, why you didn't join the people in Jama'ah, in congregation?
So let me stray, please guide my way.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk on your favorite channel, Huda TV. I'm your host, Arkham Rashid. They actually did such and such that you're accusing him of in your mind. So now I want to start off with my right hand side, Brother Ahmed. If you can just tell us what your thoughts were on that video. What can you extract from that video? Go ahead. Would you say some of the youth turn to drugs, especially in your country, if they don't have jobs, or it's because they want to get away from their daily normal lives? Would you say that's a reason?
Absolutely, that's true. Some people just resort to drug as the last option because they get themselves straight out, and they're instead of depression, but they don't know where to turn for help.
What's the wisdom behind Islam prohibiting drugs?
Islam, as a matter of fact, all the Islamic rulings in general, they are just prescribed for preserving 2 main things: the religion, which is spirituality, and the worldly or the mundane things, which is the soul, human soul.
So I think a message would be just to stay completely away from it. Even we can say, oh look, it's haram.
I'm calling your name.
The second legal ruling from this hadith is, the Prophet ﷺ said, what prevented you from joining the congregation? And it gives us a hint how Muslims should approach any person making mistakes. Rush and run immediately to correct his action. We are the best nation of enjoining good and forbidding evil. The Prophet ﷺ did not waste time. We have a lot of corruption. Why? Because we do not advise each other. And when we make the advice, we make it harsh and excessive. This is the reason that the Prophet ﷺ did not rush into judging the man, but he introduced the advice in the form of a question. And he said, what prevented you from making prayers in congregation? So the Prophet ﷺ had a good thought about the man. And this is something which is missing in our dialogues with the people. We have a lot of missing things. We jump into the conclusion, we judge the people that they are sinners without justifying. Sometimes you see a man wearing a ring, a Muslim, wearing a golden ring. Allah, I saw a man doing that one day, and then I approached him, subhanAllah, and said, brother, do you know that there is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about the legal ruling of wearing gold by women, by men? And he said, no, wallahi, I don't know. He said, no, there is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that says that and that and that. So a part of our mistakes is lack of knowledge. The Muslims are busy with a lot of things and they don't have time to read. They don't have time to read about a lot of things. So we should not jump into judging them and giving them severe and sometimes harsh advice. No, they need mercy. And this is the approach of the Prophet ﷺ, that he put everybody in his correct and accurate picture. He did not judge the people, but he instructed the people. That's why he was a source of mercy. May the blessings and peace of Allah be upon him. Also from this hadith, the man said, أصابتني جنابة ولا ماء. Because the man realized that a junub, a man in his state of ritual impurity, must perform ghusl. And it's obligatory, and most of the Muslims know about it. But the man didn't know about the tayammum. And the Prophet ﷺ realized, and he informed him that the appropriate way in this occasion, that you may perform a dry ablution. The man didn't know that. And there are a lot of Muslims who don't know that dry ablution may replace the ghusl, the ritual bath. And it may actually replace, at the same time, the ritual bath which is performed for the man when he dies. We know that there are occasions where performing a bath or a shower is essential. But at the same time, it may be replaced. For instance, if a person dies in a community when they have only women, and he is the only man, so no man to wash him. According to Maliki, they said they may perform a dry ablution. Some other cases, a person's corpus or body may be cut into pieces. For example, if a person falls from an aeroplane or he has a severe accident, in this case it is possible to wash, and if it is not possible to wash, we can make dry ablution. And this is one of the reasons. That's why the Prophet ﷺ informed the man to do this. Also from this hadith we understand that it is permissible for the Sahaba to exercise personal reasoning. What is personal reasoning? Personal reasoning means employing my mental faculties and employing my mind in understanding the texts in discussion. So the Sahaba made those texts sacred, but at the same time they tried to understand the text. And this is the reason. How did we understand the ijtihad in this case? Because the man stopped. He did not perform it because he realized that it is only ritual bath. But the Prophet ﷺ, and also the man did not understand the ayah of tayammum. Do you know that there is an ayah in the Quran that explains if a person doesn't have a way of making a ritual bath, he may make tayammum? Yes, there is. Which the Prophet, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَإِن كُنْتُم مَرْضَى أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ وَلَمْ تَجِدُوا Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ وَإِن كُنْتُمْ جُنُبًا فَاطَّهَّرُوا وَإِن كُنْتُم مَرْضَى أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ أَوْ جَاءَ أَحَدٌ مِّنكُم مِّنَ الْغَائِطِ أَوْ لَامَسْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ فَلَمْ تَجِدُوا مَاءً فَتَيَمَّمُوا صَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا. The word لَامَسْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ in Arabic language means having intercourse, according to some interpreters. So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and when you have a sexual intercourse with your women and you do not find water, so you can make tayammum by a sa'id al-tayyib, the pure earth and the clean sand. So this is mentioned, but the Sahabi didn't know it. So it also gives us an indication of another thing, which is the Sahaba were not equal in understanding the basics of Islam. Some of them, they had a greater share of knowledge and the other didn't. And they acted upon what they know. And when there is something new came to them, they rushed into implementing it. And this is a very important issue. They were very concerned about acting upon every single word that they know and they hear. That's why when Umar ibn al-Khattab heard the ayah in Surah Abasa, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَاكِهَةً وَأَبَّا, he know the word fakiha means fruits. And he didn't know the meaning of Abba. And then we investigated and said, what is the meaning of Abba? And then Umar ibn al-Khattab said, oh, إِنَّهُ التَّكَلُّفِ ya ibn al-Khattab. This is excessive exaggeration in knowledge. Why? Islam calls for knowing things. Islam asks you to know more and more. Why Umar ibn al-Khattab regarded it as excessive questioning? Because Umar ibn al-Khattab understood that the whole context of the ayah is to praise Allah, is to remember the favors of Allah showered upon you. So don't drive your attention to the details now. You may understand the meaning later. You may understand the meaning of the ayah later, but the whole ayah, contextually, it means that Allah revealed for you a lot of benefits, a lot of favors. In a lot of situations, we drive our attention is driven away from praising Allah or from understanding what we can call contextual understanding of the text of the Quran. Contextual understanding helps you to act. The Sahaba were very concerned to act upon what they know before acquiring more and more knowledge. So the Sahaba ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhim were not equal in understanding the tenets of Islam. Also from this hadith, the man gave his excuse. So the Prophet ﷺ accepted excuses. We have a lot of people, when an excuse of their wives is raised to them, they never accept excuses. There are people who are immune. They regard themselves that they are infallible. When there is an occasion when Amr ibn al-As actually performed a dry ablution in a similar case. Remember when Amr ibn al-As led the people in prayer and he had a wet dream and he couldn't apply water, the cold water, to his body. So he led the people in the congregation. The people returned to the Prophet ﷺ and said, look, Ya Rasulullah, Amr ibn al-As performing the congregational prayer, leading us in prayer while he was a junub, and he didn't take the charge just of washing his body. And Amr ibn al-As answered the Prophet ﷺ by saying, Allah said in the Quran, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ, and do not kill yourselves. So I didn't have the ability of applying water, cold water to my body. What is the reaction of the Prophet ﷺ? The Prophet said, smiled. The Prophet ﷺ smiled. And this is the way of accepting excuses of others. That's why I told you, from just a blink of an eye of the Prophet ﷺ, we learn a lesson. From every single step that the Prophet ﷺ does, we take a lesson. Also, the man said, the Prophet ﷺ asked the man, and he said, عليك بالصعيد فإنه يكفيك. So the Prophet ﷺ commanded him to make tayammum in this occasion. And the Prophet ﷺ, look at his words, they are very concise and to the point. And he did not make a big issue. He says, عليك بالصعيد فإنه يكفيك. Stick to the pure sand or pure earth, and it is definitely sufficient for you. So the scholars said, the Prophet ﷺ, from this statement, we had a lot of rulings. Number one, when a person makes tayammum, it is not necessarily to remake the prayer again. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ did not ask the man to make his prayer again. Number two, the Prophet ﷺ asked the man to make tayammum when the time of prayer is due. So I make tayammum, it's justified for me when the time of prayer is due. Number three, I can make so many prayers with the same tayammum. There is no problem. Some scholars said no, it is only one prayer. But it is not actually in conformity with the other texts, because according to the hadith of Abu Dhar, and this is an authentic hadith, The Prophet ﷺ said, الصعيد وضوء المسلم وإن لم يجد الماء 10 سنين. Sa'id, which is the pure sand or the pure earth, is the wudu of a Muslim, is the ablution of a Muslim, even if he doesn't find it for 10 years. But when he finds water, he must touch it to his skin. So the scholars concluded from this hadith, if I'm making ablution, if I'm making tayammum on behalf of ablution, that's okay. But if I make tayammum on behalf of ghusl, ritual bath, I must wash my body afterwards when the water is accessible and available for me. Who told you about it? Because the same authentic hadith, the Prophet ﷺ passed by the well and he found water, so he gave a bucket of water for the man whom the Prophet ﷺ commanded to make tayammum at the first place. So the scholars concluded that tayammum is uplifts, which means removing. It removes the state of ritual impurity. It removes it totally, and it replaces ablution in this case. For the materials, the scholars differed. Some of them said that it must be pure, and the scholars differed the word the sa'id in different ways. So this is the richness of the language. Some scholars interpreted the word the sa'id to mean just the sand, and other interpreted it to just anything on the face of the earth, and others explained it to be just dust. We will explain it inshallah in the next episode. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to shower the beneficial knowledge upon our hearts and tranquility in our families and ourselves. إنه ولي ذلك والقادر عليه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.